The war between the states is over, but the bitterness and the conflict still remain. Ranch wars flare. Rumors of gold summon thousands of adventurers. Peaceful towns live in fear of outlaw gangs, and justice is executed by the fastest gun. Cornelius Doubleday, the fiancé of the wealthy and highly successful businesswoman and estate owner Anne Rutledge, has gone missing during his charity work in the West. The last word from him was a request for a large sum of money, which made Anne wonder what exactly was going on out there. Now, with Cornelius's disappearance, there was naught to do but for Anne to set out on an expedition to find her fiancé and get some answers. With her, she has her trusty butler, John A. Bellinger, her dog Bessie, and 2 hired Pinkerton agents, Dexter Colby and Cedric Valentine, with a 3rd agent, the local Jessie Tremaine, set to meet them at the San Francisco train station. Rupert Rutledge, Anne's spoiled dandy of a brother, has also come along on Anne's request. But does he perhaps have his own reasons for wanting a word with Mr. Doubleday? This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
You have arrived at the San Francisco train station, where you are met by Jessie Tremaine. She's greeting you cordially, of course, but she's actually mostly talking to Mr. Colby.
I go over to my sister and I remark, did we really need to bring these individuals? I mean, it's just a... Why do we need so many people involved?
Well, as you know it, brother, we have a lot of money involved and invested in this. I thought it would be of interest to make sure that, everything has gone all right with my dear Con. And, well, the bank wants us to make sure as well that our assets are in safe hands. I am worried, you know that. I am worried that something might have happened to him, that someone is extorting him.
You don't need to worry about that, sister dear. Cornelius, he's a guy who knows what's going on. He's an intelligent man. I'm sure this is all just... if you really think it's necessary, then it's necessary. But I just don't see why. 3 of them as well. Even 1 would have been good enough.
I have my reasons.
All right. Well, you know best.
Let's go over to meet this Miss Tremaine, shall we?
Also, Miss Tremaine, she actually carries a sword. That's kind of unusual.
Huh.
I admit I study her for a moment and I'm quite perplexed. I'm a little intrigued because that's a nice sword.
It is.
Swords are fun.
Looks a bit garish.
Now,
Yeah.
sister, come on. Look at the style of that. That's not from around here.
John Bellinger, your butler, says that's a Chinese sword. I recognize it from my time in China.
Really? Why would she be carrying a Chinese sword?
It's strange because she doesn't look Chinese at all.
I walk over to her. Is she wearing those dark shades?
She is, actually, yes.
But she doesn't look Chinese.
She doesn't look Chinese at all. Oh, Mrs. Rutledge? Mr. Rutledge?
Miss Tremaine, a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
The same.
And I take it you have made arrangements for us here, or...
I have. I've made some inquiries, and apparently the police commissioner, Mr. Langham, wants to meet you both.
The police commissioner?
Yes.
Why would that be?
Well, I started to make some inquiries, and I understood that Mr. Doubleday has gone missing since 2 weeks, I think.
Yes.
13 days.
I have a little bit of a nervous twitch to my eye as this conversation is happening.
I'm well focused on Miss Tremaine. Well, I'll see. What a heat we are having today, aren't we?
Oh yeah, it's usually warm on this side of the peninsula, and if you go to the west side, it's much colder.
I see. Well, good. My manservant here, John, is telling me that you are carrying a Chinese sword. Is that right?
Oh, yes, this is correct. It's my gim. It's a straight sword. She pulls out the sword.
Ooh,
It's very sharp, and I can handle it.
very.
How did you come to have a weapon such as that? That is very impressive, Miss Tremaine.
Well, Mr. Rutledge...
Please, call me Rupert.
Oh, Rupert?
I smile.
It was given to me by my foster father. He trained me in the use of it.
Does he have a Chinese heritage there?
He is, or was Chinese before he passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it's been some years, so thank you. I carry it with me, just like my pistol. It's my life assurance.
Very good, and perhaps mine as well then, since we'll start making this, investigation together. I'm sure everything is fine, but I'm happy that we'll get such a quick meeting with the, police.
Some of the tracers puts Mr. Doubleday in Barbary coast, which is, I should say, a seedy area, and it's also right next to Chinatown, which is a place that I'm well acquainted with.
Sounds good to me. How exciting. Seedy, you say? How seedy are we talking?
Very seedy and criminal. It's actually a real den, I would say.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if we can find... Is there anywhere nearby that does more suitable accommodation if we're going to be here for a while?
Oh yes, of course. There's the Excelsior Hotel, and there's also the Palace Hotel. And according to my inquiries, Mr. Doubleday was staying at the Palace Hotel before he disappeared from there about 10 days ago.
John, do you know anything about these hotels? What would be suitable for us?
Of course, madam. I booked some rooms at the Excelsior.
Very good. Would you make sure that all our belongings is taken to the hotel while we go and have a talk with the police commissioner then, please?
Of course, madam.
Are we going to go and talk with the police commissioner now? We've just arrived. I barely even had a moment to get a bit of a wash. Or lunch.
You did eat on the train, dear brother.
That was early lunch. Come now, sister. You need to keep good constitution. It's very important that.
I wish to be getting on with these businesses as quickly as possible. I'm sure we'll be able to find something after we meet with a good commissioner. Maybe we'll even meet him over a bite.
I roll my eyes a little and give out a sigh, and I sort of check my pocket watch and just nod. Very well, sister dear. If you think it's best to be doing this now, I suppose we're doing this now.
That's
right,
what I think is better we do. Yes, brother. Miss Tremaine, if you would be so kind as to lead the way.
Yes, this way, please. I've arranged some carriages. You get into the carriages and you go over across town. It takes about a half an hour or so, and you arrive at the police station. That is not remarkably big. It's quite small, actually. It's a stone building, 3 stories high. Compared to a police building, not that you ever set foot in one in Boston, but still, this looks like provincial or a small. This does not look like the central police headquarters for a town of this size. You've been riding through it for half an hour, so you've seen that it's quite big.
Right.
But you're actually just in the middle of everything. There's just houses everywhere, and it says the police station of San Francisco, and there's some police officers in blue uniforms standing outside, helping people to get in through the doors.
This is the Central Police.
To the best of my knowledge, this is the place where we're going to meet Commissioner Langham.
Very good. And I dab my forehead a bit with the handkerchief because it's really warm today. And I start making my way over to the police officers and sort of taking the lead now. Good day, officers.
Madam?
We were here to have a meeting with the police commissioner.
Oh, right this way. You must be Mrs. Rutledge.
That is right, and I reach out my hand. Nice to meet you.
Oh. They open the door, and you're let in to the building. It's inside. It's even warmer than outside. There's a lot of people shattering going on. There's some sergeant at a desk, and the police man shows you up another stair, so you don't have to go into this room filled with criminals and people
Good.
lower standing.
I attempt to find a piece of paper anywhere to fan myself. This is unsuitable weather this time of year. I'm sweating.
You pick up a newspaper actually that someone left on a desk and start fanning it. Yeah, it's really warm and moist inside of the localities, and when you get up the stairs, you get away a little bit from this hustle bustle of the big room where they're like booking all sorts of people, but not on the higher scale. But you see prostitutes and drunkards and all kinds. But you get up and get into a quite airy office actually. There are two big windows and they're open to the street, so you can hear the sound of hooves and carriages going by. And you're greeted by Thomas C. Langen. Mr. and Mrs. Rutledge, welcome to San Francisco. I hope you will find the city agreeable. I assure you that it's much better than its somewhat dented reputation.
I'm sure it is, Officer Langham. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, come in. Can I offer you something? Tea, maybe?
Excellent, yes.
Well, yes, a cup of tea would be lovely, thank you.
Yeah. Fix the tea, please.
And I must say that you seem to be running a very efficient business down here. So
Thank you, ma'am.
things are busy.
It has to be. It has to be. This is a 200,000 people city, and I only have 150 police officers to run it. So we have to do our best.
That's very impressive. Now, I hear that you already have started to make some inquiries, and I appreciate you taking the time, of course, to meet us on this day about my fiancé.
Yes, the gone missing, Mr. Doubleday. Well, two reasons for this. The first one is my inquiries have led me to believe that he has gone missing in Barbary Coast. And you might not be aware that Barbary Coast is a really bad place.
Right.
So, well, if he has been gone missing for a week in Barbary Coast, I'm sorry to say, but I think that might mean that you will never see him again. There's murder happening in Barbary Coast. Also, people are getting shanghaied, and if this term is not something that you are acquainted with, I should say when you get drugged or you drink yourself to stupor, and then you find yourself waking up on a ship, having to either work on the ship for nothing or being thrown into the ocean.
Oh dear.
It's a hideous practice.
It sounds it. Most uncivilized.
Yeah, it's slavery.
Huh. Well, what I can't live with, Commissioner, is the uncertainty. Whatever might have happened to my dear Cornelius, I have to know. Have we any idea of who he was in his company during this last time that we saw him?
Oh, not really. He stayed at the Palace Hotel. That we know. And he disappeared from there 10 days ago. Leaving suitcases, I understand. The hotel still has the room.
They still have the suitcases as well.
The suitcases and the room, as I've been informed, are intact. I haven't been there myself, of course.
Have they investigated what was on his person and his belongings?
I sent some officers over, and they talked to the manager. As I understand it, at this point, no missing persons request has come in, other than, I wouldn't say a complaint really, but the hotel has informed me that the person staying in the room, person or persons staying in the room, has not been around for a while, and they were, should I say, concerned that maybe the persons left without paying the bill or just gone astray somehow.
My fiancé happened to be working a lot with the rights of minorities and the less privileged. Could it have been that you think that there might have been some beneficiary in the coast that he could have been helping, or?
I see. Yeah. Well, in the Barbary coast, there's all sorts of people. I could show you this, for example. He brings out a wanted poster. This is Jack Murphy. This is just one of the individuals in Barbary coast that's really not someone who you would like to
Murder, robbings, larceny, kidnappings.
Yeah. I mean, if you go into the Barbary coast, this is the kind of individual that you will acquaint. I strongly advise against going there at all, although I know that there are some traces leading Mr. Doubleday or pinning Mr. Doubleday to locations in Barbary coast.
Well, maybe there is some sort of correspondence to be found in his hotel room if everything indeed is intact. I should probably be heading over there along with my associates that I've hired for this investigation. I understand you've already met Miss Tremaine?
Oh, yes, Miss Tremaine.
Yes? Do you know anything of her yourself? Have you been... does she hold a reputation in this?
Can I borrow a die? 20-sided? Well, as I understand it, she has some knowledge of the Chinese quarter. And in that quarter there's also a strong criminal presence. They call it the Tong, which is, I could only say some remnant of Chinese culture still holding sway over the citizens. If you were to go in as a police officer into the Chinese quarter, which we seldom do, I should admit, and talk to people there, if they even know English, they won't talk to you because of the tongue. And Miss Tremaine, being probably a very good citizen, upstanding person, I presume,
I've just read her best recommendations,
has some kind of prior history with the tongue.
Would you think there could be anyone in there that could have been a beneficiary of my fiancé's generous aid? Someone perhaps wanting to be integrated to the society, or perhaps wanting to depart from their previous traditions?
There are numerous wretched souls in the Chinese Quarter and Barbary Coast, so
not
probably yes,
yes.
But not anyone that I personally know of.
Well, at least we have something to hope for. That's very good. And anything else you would like to tell us, Commissioner, before we make our way over to the hotel then?
You've been warned. I'm telling you, please don't set foot in Barbary Coast and the Chinese Quarter. It's not something that persons of your stature should ever even consider.
Well, I would agree, but I feel out of respect for Cornelius, we owe him at least to collect his belongings and things that sound like they'd be left at this hotel. I'd say that's at least our initial priority. Perhaps, depending on what we find, we can then vacate the area. After all, I don't see any point if he's truly gone, sister, in chasing after ne'er-do-wells who may have done him in.
I give you an appreciative glance at this, you saying this, that thank you, brother. I appreciate your concern for my fiancé, and that you would also offer to join me in this venture, even though I see that, of course, it could mean risks to your person. Thank you so much, Commissioner. We will try our best to avoid this area, but we simply have to find out what happened to my fiancé.
Of course. The hotel, though, the Palace Hotel, is not located in this seedy area. It's a reputable hotel, so I'm totally convinced that you will find no problem reaching.
Excellent.
That's where we'll start then.
Mrs. Rutledge, Mr. Rutledge.
Pleasure.
Commissioner.
You leave the police station?
Yes, and as we go outside, I fold up my parasol again and see if I meet our dear Pinkerton agents.
Yep, they're waiting outside, standing talking to Mr. Bellinger.
Is there one of them that has the sort of leads that I would normally talk to, or is it all of them?
Well, Dexter Colby, you understand, is the man. The other two are subordinates.
Very good. I walk over to them and, well, Mr. Colby, we seem to have had a good exchange with the commissioner here. It would seem that our first step of investigation would be in the Palace Hotel. His belongings would still be there, but yes, he has last been spotted in the Barbary coast, as we are aware.
Very good, very well.
We're hoping to visit the hotel now and see if we could find any clues as to his current whereabouts or his late communications with whomever he would be working with.
Yes, indeed. I truly hope that we don't perhaps have to go to this unsavory location. Even my interest and excitement is tempered a little by hearing that the place maybe isn't for decent souls like ourselves.
I see. Well, I assure you, Miss Rutledge, we are very eager to begin investigations, me and Cedric, and of course Miss Tremaine as well. She has told us something about the Chinese quarters and the Barbary coast, so we're, should I say, forewarned. But we are also very ready to go in there and see whatever we find, if you say so.
I go over to the coach that I suppose have been waiting for us, and I go over and I open it to see Bessie sitting there, my dear bloodhound. Yes, I go over and give her a scratch on the ear. I'm sorry, Bessie. Sorry about the heat. Of course, it would be very warm. We're going to make sure we get you some water to drink as soon as we get to the hotel. That a girl?
You get into the coach and you go, not really cross town, but a few blocks away, and you get to the Palace Hotel, which is a stately white building, built not many years ago. It looks quite new, actually. A very nice hotel. You could for sure stay here, although your butler has made arrangements at the Excelsior Hotel, which is apparently just down the block, so it's quite close.
That's perfect. I mean, I trust John with the best of judgment. So, come on, Bessie.
No! Calm down, beast. Calm down. I'm not doing anything.
Stop that now, Bessie. How many more times?
Seriously, don't know why you brought him. Is he going to chase away armed men with his bad odor and foul temperament?
She happens to be one of my closest friends, as you may know. I care much for her well-being, and I just couldn't leave her back behind, could I not, Bessie? You like seeing the world, don't you?
I sigh to myself and follow behind my sister, keeping a good distance from the mutt.
Yep. You walk into the lobby of the hotel, and you see the doors are opened by bellboys, of course, and then you walk up to the porter. Mr., welcome to the Palace Hotel. What can I do for you today?
I nod and I say, I am Anne Rutledge. I believe my fiancé Cornelius Doubleday, Mr. Cornelius Doubleday, was staying here until his recent, departure from the hotel. But
Mr. Doubleday indeed stayed here. That is correct. We still have his room. We haven't seen him for quite a while, though.
Very well. I was told we might be able to, have a look ourselves inside the room, if that wouldn't be a problem with you.
Specifically, as he is the fiancé of my dear sister, we'd be very interested in collecting his belongings that we were told were left here, suitcases and the like.
Well, it's not the policy of the hotel, he starts saying, and then Dexter Colby walks up and he flashes some kind of metal object to the man, and then he also quite unsuspiciously hands the man a bill of some, you don't really see the value of it, but he apparently bribes the porter, and the porter nods and gives you actually the key.
Thank you, Mr. Colby, and I let my brother take the key.
I take the key and place it in my pocket, and I look towards Mr. Colby and I go, yes, good thinking, Mr. Colby. And I say to the bellboy, I'm very glad that this could all be sorted like true gentlemen.
Of course. Discretion is our number one priority for our clients here at the Palace Hotel.
Of course. Good on you, young man. Good on you.
We will go up now and have a look. Would you mind fetching some water for my dear dog?
Of course. Cedric, get some water. It's on the 7th floor, and you can use the elevator, which is a quite recent addition to our building. You have, of course, already ridden elevators. It's not uncommon in Boston, but maybe here on the West Coast it's a new thing.
Well, I do enjoy these fancy gadgets. It's truly interesting how technology is progressing, and I move straight to the elevator and inspect it, and...
There's a man standing, opening he's got this little uniform on, and he's apparently operating the whole thing with a very large lever. He opens the gate and lets you in.
Excellent, excellent.
Which floor, sir?
7th floor for me and my dear sister and our companions. There's a good man.
And I let Bessie finish her drink, and then I come along as well, and I step into the elevator, keeping you waiting for a little while as Bessie takes her time, lapping up the water. But then I come in. Yes.
You notice that the elevator operator seems not completely comfortable with letting black men into his machine of wonder, the elevator, but he doesn't say anything. But you can notice that there's something. You all fit into the elevator. Bessie has her water, and then comes along, and you go up to the 7th floor.
I of course notice this disdain towards my colleagues of minority origin. I say nothing, but of course I think to myself that these people are still so prejudiced.
So you walk out to the elevator. There's no tip given, I presume, and then you get over to room 709.
No, I suppose because John is the one handling the money, he would catch up with us soon enough. Right, yes. So we walk up to the door, and I'm looking to my brother to produce the key.
Which I do indeed produce. I take it out and step forward to open the door, and I very quickly step into the room.
Oh, you can see Cedric is like, but you step into the room.
I didn't see the need to be unheeded. What could be possibly wrong? I step into the room.
You walk into a nice suite. It's a double room with a full-sized bed for 2 people. And the room has been cleaned, so it's in every way the bed is made, and there's fresh flowers, and there's you can see that there's also some clothes hanging around in the wardrobe and the open part, and you immediately see that there's a dress hanging on one of the hangers. Never thought of Cornelius as a cross-dresser, so it's probably not his, but someone else's, possibly.
I sniff a little, and I immediately begin searching for suitcases, in particular.
I let the Pinkerton agents take the lead, and I take a step back, and I stand there, and I scratch Bessie's ears for a bit as I let the others have a look around.
They walk in. You're opening a wardrobe to actually find a suitcase. Dexter walks up. Sir, if we may conduct a thorough investigation of the premises, maybe we can find some clues before we disturb the scene, so to speak.
Well, you are the experts on these sort of things, I suppose. It's your line of work, but I just, wanted to make sure that his things were here. My eye twitched a little. But... Very well. I lift my hands up and I just sort of step back a little, but I'm watching what they're doing very keenly.
Yeah, you're hanging onto their shoulders, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. They start investigating the room in different ways. They bring out these the suitcases. They sort out the clothes. There's men's clothes, but there's also some women effects. There's actually. The clothes in themselves are not really remarkable, but after a while, Miss Tremaine says this has been more or less left behind. There's a shirt that's broken. There's these shoes that have seen better days, and I'm guessing these were the losses to cut, so to speak.
Right. And I look over and I see these women's clothes, and I can't help but wonder what these are doing here. I look them over like, what would these be my size? Could he have bought these for me? Or?
You would say it's a thinner woman than your size, for sure. Cedric lifts down a hat, a woman's hat, and he picks out a red hair from it. I would say it's a red-haired person, probably a female, because the length of the hair.
Someone who seems to have been staying here, it seems, considering the
Possible?
leftover clothes.
I frown a little, and mentally, my thoughts are going to a very different place at the moment for who this individual could be, but I do not say anything of the sort. It would be ungentlemanly after all. I am intrigued, though, that they do not seem to be finding anything else other than clothing, and is there no, like I mentioned, like, no sign of then a wallet or any papers?
Of the stuff that you find, there's nothing like rings or pins for your
Cufflinks or...
cufflinks, yeah.
Mr. Colby,
nothing like that.
in your professional opinion, Mr. Colby, as we're not seeming to find anything on an individual such as himself who would at least have a wallet on him, is it possible that this could have been, maybe he's a victim of robbery, perhaps?
It's very possible, of course. He seems to have been carrying all his valuables at the time of his disappearance. Let me just do a trick. He walks up to the stationery where he picks out a pencil and then he scratches the surface of the paper. And you can actually quite clearly see that there's something has been written on a paper upside and it's been removed. But you can actually, he says, well, I think it looks like it says $2,000 maybe. And also says Garden of Deluge or something like that.
Deluge? Is this a check that has been written?
It's possible. Hard to say. And this also says Bone Crusher, for sure. Yeah, you can all see it. It takes some dedication and a keen eye to actually make out what has been written. There's more things that has been written on this paper.
And would this mean anything to any of you detectives?
Well,
Bone Crusher, Garden of Deluge?
it might be the Garden of Delight, Mr. Tremaine says. It's a place in Barbary Coast, gambling den of sorts.
A gambling den, you say?
Yeah.
Huh. Do you think my fiancé might have been forced to write such a check to someone? Who am I joking? This is obviously things are not looking the best here. I can see that, and I am embarrassed to see that there might have been female company involved and all this. But I want, as you know, I want the word straight, and preferably from my husband or anyone that would be his close acquaintance in these parts before I draw any final conclusions.
Of course.
And I would appreciate everyone, well, being discreet about this until we know for sure.
Sister Discretion is my middle name.
I'm sure. Looks like you were almost looking for something yourself in here, brother. What were you looking for before?
Oh, no, I sort of have a little nervous tick again. No, I was just making sure that his things were here. I have to admit, this is not looking good. I hate to say it, but if he has been a victim of a robbery or some other ne'er-do-well deed, I mean, what do you think, Mr. Colby? Is it even worth going to this place? Surely if he has, and I don't want to say it, sister, but if he has perhaps met an untimely end, I mean, can we even recover his possessions or even find him by this stage?
Well, I know nothing of the place. Maybe Mr. Main can fill us in more, but it seems like our most solid lead at the time to go to the Garden of the Light and just have a look around.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably the next place to stop. I suppose we should ask the hotel management if they would have seen any other acquaintance staying here at the hotel in the same room of my dear Cornelius. And I'll let Bessie have a little sniff on the dress. Perhaps you would recognize the smell later in case we would find the same person again.
I lean over to Mr. Colby and just sort of subtly remark, Mr. Colby, I don't want to undermine the staff of this fine establishment, but I know a few people sometimes who... Is it possible that if there had been anything, some spare cash lying around, that some of this hotel staff could have maybe pocketed it?
It's not unheard of course. That could be the case.
You couldn't, while we get ready to perhaps go to this location, you seem like the sorts who know who to talk to. You couldn't just double-check that for me, could you? Again, his finances are, shouldn't be in untoward hands.
No, I understand. Of course, I will make a discreet...
Thank you, and on this occasion, there's no need to bother my sister with this. She probably would disapprove of this sort of...
I fully understand.
Good man, good man, good man.
Jessie says, the Garden of the Lights was operated, last I know, by Gregory Brooks, and it was built to be a luxury hotel for, well-off people. But it didn't become a success because there was too much robbery going on for well-off people to wanting to go there on a regular basis.
I see. So, if it is a gambling place now, might it be one of the finer places?
Oh, yeah. I have not been to the place in question for a long time, so I can't really say anything about its current state. But it's a large enough place, and it's one of the finer, I would say, for sure. At least it used to be.
Very well. Well, if we can't find any other correspondence in here, which we seem to be unable to find, I look over at Mr. Valentine and Mr. Colby as well.
Valentine has lit up a cigar stub, standing over at the window, smoking. They don't seem to be working anymore in the room.
This is what we have.
Yeah.
Very well. Well then, we shall depart from the hotel after perhaps making a final inquiry with the management. I suppose I would be able to just speak with the hotel manager.
I don't see a problem with that. And then maybe lunch.
Then maybe lunch, yes.
So you take the elevator down, and you meet with the management. Dexter excuses himself. I'm gonna go do some quiet investigations, but you still have these two with you, guarding your back.
Very good, Mr. Colby. I'll be seeing you later. We might meet you at the perhaps Garden of the Lights then?
Of course, or I'll catch you before you leave the hotel.
Very good. We should probably have lunch nearby, so you'll probably be able to find us.
And you get to the office of the hotel management, where a man with a thin mustache greets you. Mr. and Mrs. Rutledge, welcome to the Palace Hotel. I hope everything is satisfactory.
Pleasure to meet you. It's a fine place you have here. I have to say, it's nice and cool in here as a change to the rest of the city.
Yeah, we do our utmost to have our customers feel at their best.
Very good. And I'm sure my fiancé had a very pleasant stay here until his disappearance. Now, would you know if anyone else was using this, my fiancé's room during his stay here?
Your fiancé, you say? Yeah, well, as a
out
matter
with
of
it now.
fact,
Yes, I would rather hear the truth.
I can show you the book, and The couple staying in 709 was written in as Mr. and Mrs. Doubleday.
Mrs. Doubleday?
Correct, so yes. There's a note. She actually left 2 days before, so that would be 12 days ago. 2 days before Mr. Doubleday disappeared.
She left a note, you say?
No, there's a note that she actually left because the porter says that Mr. Doubleday said she had some family business to attend. Her mother was ill, I think. They said there was a telegram sent.
Was it sent to the hotel?
No, and that's the reason why I bring this up, actually, because well, that would be the practice.
Yes.
But well.
Do you know if she was a local, this Mrs. Doubleday?
I have never seen Mr. or Mrs. Doubleday before. Although it's a charming couple, I must say. Also, Mr. Doubleday with all his acquaintances, very very charming man, and I might even go as far as to say a friend of humanity, a philanthropist.
I close my eyes for a bit. I feel my brother's gaze sort of stinging at the side of my eyes, and you can notice that I'm visibly shaken by this. So I'm trying to...
Can I offer you anything? Maybe some tea or water?
Yes, please. A tea would be lovely. I've been quite silent during all this conversation, just sort of looking at my sister and, again, just fiddling with my pocket watch. I feel that... I wonder if I'm seeing a clear picture here of what Cornelius may have been up to, but I don't really wish to say anything because I do not wish to upset my sister.
I draw a deep breath and I say, actually, we will be going out for luncheon.
That's true, actually. I did forget.
I do not see the need to stay here any longer, but I appreciate your hospitality. And is there anything else you would know about, well, where this telegram or any such would have been delivered?
Well, Mrs. Rutledge, we have a very fine, if I may say so myself, restaurant here at the premises that, of course, I see you are a little bit distraught with this information. I would personally like to invite you to our restaurant and we will, of course, treat you to this meal.
Thank you. That will do nicely, I say, still visibly upset, but I can't refuse such a generous offer, and we have our colleagues coming back here anyway, so why not take the time now?
Well, if you come with me this way, I'll set you up with one of the best tables. So,
best tables? Well, that sounds just fine by me.
And I try to latch on to my brother's grasp for positivity.
I give a firm grasp back. I remark, now dear sister, maybe, well, Cornelius was a charmer. He was a talker. He also, as you said, was very into his his charity works. I pause a little at that sentence because I know that charity works, yes. But maybe, sister dear, he was misled by some sort of seductress or a lady out to inquire on his fortunes. Maybe she might know what happened to him if she is still alive or around the area. That could be a good lead, couldn't it?
Please, Rupert, don't take me for a fool. I'm not going to walk into this with my eyes closed. I see clearly that something is going on here, and I thought for the longest that my dear Con was something out of, well, the ordinary. You know how many other interested men have been grasping for our land. But I really thought he was different. Now, until everything has been proved, and I've seen it from my own eyes, things are looking bad, and I can see that. And most of all, I feel humiliated. I am not sad. I am perhaps a bit angry, but mostly humiliated because I was thinking of myself more than someone who would be deceived in this manner.
I frown a little. I actually am upset that my sister is upset. I remark, now, Cornelius was quite a smart talker, sister. You shouldn't feel bad that he maybe deceived us both. Anyone would have been.
And as we sit down and we talk a bit about this, and we ordered the food and something to drink, and of course non-alcoholic for me, and you know that I'm strictly sober.
I do indeed. I, on the other hand, have the finest whiskey they have.
Of course. This is a Scottish malt.
Ooh, lovely.
You're served the food, and there's a waiter who takes care of you. Is like handed over by the hotel manager, and apparently he mentions Mr. Doubleday, and the waiter comes over, starts talking, showing you the menu, giving you the day's special, and then he says, "I understand you knew Mr. Doubleday."
We did indeed. We were, you could say, acquaintances. Why? Did you have the pleasure of his company?
Oh, several times. He spoke to me about his acquaintance to the president, Ulysses S. Grant. So are you also acquainted to the president himself?
Is this something that I would recognize?
Roll the die. Well, you're thinking it's possible, but maybe then he should have talked about it more. But he might have said it, and but then it's quite a big thing. You don't really recognize it.
I look at my brother. No, I can't say that I myself am acquainted with the president, but...
A splendid man, I must say. Mr. Doubleday, one of our finer guests. I'm very, very sad that he's not around anymore.
Yes, us too. Would you perhaps know anything about places he would visit in town?
Oh, he was very interested in this down at the docks. Do you know the Barbary coast?
Well, yes, we've been familiarized with it.
He was very interested in this area. I think he was doing some kind of charity work there and taking care of the wretched souls that...
Taking care of the wretched souls in Barbary coast. I bet he was. He truly did care for the little people. And I take a sip of whiskey.
That's what I'd like to think.
And I chat a little more with this very nice waiter. I'm very interested in the specials. In fact, I order everything they have within reason of the day, because I'm in the mood for dessert as well to cool me down. I'm enjoying myself. I'm feeling much more relaxed now in a nice restaurant environment.
Yeah. You even get the ice cream, or glaze as they call it.
Oh,
very
how lovely.
Very special.
Yes.
And I let Bessie, of course, have her meal as well, though a bit away from my brother, so she won't.
I would have said, did you have to bring her to the table?
You also spot that on the other side of glass wall there's a saloon, and they have both a faro table and a roulette table. Although it's right now the roulette table is not. It's too early in the day, maybe, but it's not operated. But the faro table, there's actually some people around it, so there's some card game going.
Well, I finish my dessert and I excuse myself from my sister and say, "You take your time, sister darling, and maybe I will just investigate over there and maybe make some more inquiry. Like someone may have seen Cornelius. Cornelius did, after all, enjoy his games as much as I do, so maybe I'll investigate over there."
Have people started making their way back, the agents? Have they all sort of gathered
Well,
back?
Dexter is actually coming back to the restaurant at this time. And you didn't invite them to the table, which is also...
Yeah, I expect them to have the staff food or eat somewhere.
So that you can see that they are lingering on the outskirts of your presence.
Yeah, and I nod towards my brother and I say, "Don't be too long, brother. I think we're starting to get ready to move."
Oh, no, not too long at all. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I've already started to walk off and investigate.
Yeah, you come up to the table, and there's some people sitting around. There's actually just 2 players and a croupier. Sir,
Gentlemen,
like to join us in a game of cards?
I would love to. Hope you don't mind one more.
Of course, you're very, very welcome. Our minimum deal is $5.
I reach into my wallet and take out $10. How about we make this interesting, friends?
You see this female player, actually. She lifts her hat up and studies you for a while and says, well, of course, I'm in.
Rupert Rutledge, a pleasure, madam. And I take her hand and kiss it in a very gentlemanly fashion.
Well, you sound like you're not from here.
No, I'm from Boston.
An Easterner.
Here on a little excursion. And who do I have the pleasure of speaking to?
Farah Joseph.
Miss Joseph.
I'm a regular, you could say.
A regular. How delightful. You know, I have a friend in these parts. Goes by the name of Cornelius Doubleday. Don't suppose you've had the pleasure of his acquaintance?
Well, pleasure is not the word I would use, but yes, I've played with Mr. Doubleday. Or should say double deal, maybe?
Oh, yes, I lean a little. I am aware that he, perhaps sometimes in games, isn't always a gentleman. I, by the way, am very much against that, but, you know, he makes the table interesting.
Well, I was playing this, should we call it a tournament? It was a big game, a lot of people involved, and the finalists, the cards are being dealt, and you're placing your wagers. I was playing. There was me, and it was Mr. Doubleday, and a gentleman, or we could suppose he's a gentleman, called Mr. McPherson, who were still in the game, so to speak. And Mr. Doubleday was doing quite all right for himself, and I would say he's a unremarkable player at best. So I studied his moves, and I wasn't the only one who could say that he was actually he had something up his sleeve.
I lean in a little. Being as I am very enamored with this woman, and of course she's being so helpful. Like, surely she can be more helpful. You don't say. When was the last time you saw Mr. Doubleday? And could you tell me, like, how recent his financial success was? It sounds like he did well in here.
This same night I'm talking about, it was the last time I saw him. And I don't know many people who have seen him after this. We were having this card game, and when people realized that he was doing something against the rules, well, then management of the establishment didn't like it at all. And he was dragged from the table, and I haven't seen him since.
Oh dear. Was there any individuals who were particularly annoyed at his cheating? Perhaps some losers at the table?
Well, the thing is, I won the day, so... but I don't take kindly to that kind of work, of course. But the management will never stand to have a cheater at the table.
Oh, of course,
well, they sometimes they've killed people for doing that. In the Barbary coast.
Yes.
And not in a place like that. You can see the croupier is like, I assure you, we would call the police if anything like that happened here.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she says, but in the Barbary coast, anything can happen. You could even be sold into slavery with the Chinese.
Are you familiar with the Barbary coast yourself?
Oh, I go there every night.
Miss Joseph, by yourself?
Well, I hire my security. You can see there's 2 guys, large kind of body type guys. You didn't even pay attention to them because they're clad in common clothes and they're standing off to the side. But you can also see that they are armed, and well, they're probably her bodyguards.
I see. Oh, well, as intelligent as you are, beautiful, madam. But...
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. I have to confess, we might ourselves be going to the Barbary coast. We are keen to find the well-being of our friend, Mr. Doubleday. I know he might have been a bit of a scoundrel, but, he was a friend. I'm glad that you've confirmed that it is wise to have some hired men, as it were.
Well, I should certainly say so. Well, in the Barbary coast, there's a lot of different places to go to. I would recommend you to go to the Garden of the Lights. It's as of late, it has become a boxing place where you can bet on boxing. Yeah, they have this champion sorts. I think it's called Bone Breaker or something like that.
Bone Crusher?
Bone Crusher, that's it. Exactly.
Well, how delightful. What an exciting name. Oh, Bone Crusher.
He's a beast of a man, I must say. I don't place bets on boxing myself. I'm a card player. But
I have to admit, I actually have quite an interest. I even did a little bit back at school myself. Back in the day, of course.
Oh, you're a boxer.
Yes. Well, only little mild tournaments. I am lying at this point. While I have indeed trained in boxing with my friends, I have never been in any sort of actual tournament. But just a minor little bit, But it's not something a gentleman should partake of too much, of course.
Well, you don't have the traits, the ears or the nose. So I take it you're a very skilled boxer.
Oh yes,
Can
yes,
you really
indeed.
defend yourself?
I do like to think so. Well, also a doctor. Well, I mean, training. Doctor of training.
And a boxer. Oh, you're an intriguing man. Mr. Rutledge?
Mr. Rutledge, indeed.
From Boston.
Shall we play around?
Yeah, of course. You're playing. Actually, the bank wins this one.
I sigh a little and would very much like to continue, but I do then pass a look over. Do I see my sister?
Yes, I have.
She looks annoyed.
While they have been talking, I have been going over to the Pinkerton detectives after a while and talking a little bit with them and seeing if Colby has made any new discoveries while he was away.
I found nothing suspicious at these premises. It seems they arrived, a couple, and then she left 2 days before he disappeared.
Very well, I see.
That's all.
I appreciate that. Now, Miss Tremaine, I turn to her. As you know, you have been hired to, be my rather indiscreet brother's bodyguard. I want you to make sure that he survives this trip and all these things that he might undertake during it. But I also would like to keep an extra eye on what he does and who he talks to.
Yes, ma'am. Certainly. I can see it being needed.
Very good. And I don't mind him, of course, knowing that you are his bodyguard. I will probably even make clear when he comes back. And I look over to the table as you're starting to finish up.
I give a friendly wave, very obvious, and I go, "Just a moment, darling sister. I'm so sorry, I do need to go. I need to accompany my sister, of course, on our current business affairs. She is a very capable woman, but, I wouldn't be right for a brother to leave his sister unattended."
Of course not. And also, you're both a doctor and a boxer, so you have everything a woman needs, I guess.
Indeed I do. Can I say once again, an absolute pleasure. This time, I do not presume to take her hand. I just do a gentlemanly parting vow.
I hope to see you at the Garden of the Lights then. Maybe even tonight.
We may indeed be going that way, madam. We may indeed.
She tips her hat. You know that someone shouldn't be having the hat on inside, but she doesn't seem to care.
I find that exciting.
Ravishing.
Indeed. And I return. Sister, dear sister, all well, Mr. Colby?
Yes, I have found nothing extra interesting. I've only confirmed what we already knew.
I understand. And then I will begin to relay most of the information I've just discovered. However, I shall colour it in a way to cut out the parts where he was deliberately cheating and was hauled off roughly, and change it to that he was simply doing bad at the game and it seems maybe he ran into some trouble with some people who didn't want him losing. Basically trying to paint a picture slightly less that he was actually a knowing card sharp.
So he was, he was losing and he was cheating and...
Oh, well, no, well, they thought he was, but of course, Cornelius wouldn't know anything about that sort of thing, but, out here, some people, they see a card go astray, they think you're cheating, so maybe he could have run astray of some bad people here, but he apparently was doing well, so again, that could lead into our theory that maybe some individuals were after his money.
I am happy, brother, that you were able to make these discoveries, especially about the boxing arena and the bone crusher.
Yes, indeed. Yes, isn't that an interesting little twist, friends?
So apparently he was placing bets, perhaps? Or was forced to place bets? Well, who am I fooling? He was placing bets on this boxer at the Garden of Delights.
It seems obvious, Colby says.
Well, I suppose that's the place where we have to look for him then. Perhaps he has spent more money than he could and, well, had been hauled off somewhere. Nevertheless, I still need to know.
I don't want to speak out of term, but I've made some questions about the bone crusher since we... And
really?
I've understood that he's a really large boxer who has never lost. Well, as we suspected, he works at the Garden of Delights. Apparently you can go there and challenge him to a boxing match, and there's a prize to be won, and no one, of course, ever collected that.
Didn't you used to do boxing, dear brother, when you were
Well, yes, I did, although not in any official capacity such as an individual like Bone Crusher.
I smile.
Your butler has joined you. He says, Madam, it's also the question of the weight classes.
Of course.
Very important that you don't step out of your weight class.
Oh, of course.
Very well. Has everything gone as planned with everything is moved to our hotel room?
Yes, madam. Everything is set, and I've put your slippers where you want them, and I should certainly say that we have made good accommodations.
Thank you, John. That would be very good to get back to once we're finished. Just to quickly jump into the beds I've heard so much about the Excelsior Hotel. We were thinking now that we might head down to this charming place called the Barbary Coast.
And head to the Garden of the Light. I must confess, Mr. Colby, Mrs. Tremaine, and others, that it does seem as if I was wrong and maybe your assistance will be greatly required. It does seem as if most civilized people who go down that part have some individuals there just to, show the riffraff that, we mean business, as it were.
Happy to oblige, sir.
Thank you.
I have asked Miss Tremaine here to be your personal bodyguard throughout this, dear Rupert, because I understand that this is a rather rough place that we were going into, and if you will continue your habit of, going off and finding out information on your own, which I of course appreciate what you've done.
Well, I'm
so
glad
far.
you appreciate it, sister.
Yes.
You see, I sometimes actually can use the old grey cells. Occasionally, I can.
She takes a step to your side, so she's staring close to you, but doesn't say anything.
Well, it's certainly interesting, but you know what, Mr. Tremaine, I must admit you do seem quite capable. It's actually quite exciting, so I will abide by your rules, so it were.
Well, thank you, sir. I will be at your side at all moments.
So we start heading towards the Barbary Coast.
You have listened to a special episode of Red Moon Roleplaying where we play The Baron of Barbary Coast for Western. The Baron of Barbary Coast was written by Anders and Tove Gillbring. Western is published by Oskfågen. The music was made by Phonotech and is used with permission from their label Cryochamber. Visit cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for more delicious drone and dark ambient. As always, a big thank you to all supporters. If you appreciate the show and want to encourage our work, head over to Patreon and see if you want to support the show there. We hope you enjoy this special episode and look forward to meeting again. Thank you for listening.